From ConnectBooster, I'm Ryan Goodman. Today, I have the distinct pleasure of talking to Nancy Hammervik, Executive Vice President of Industry Relations for CompTIA and also CEO of the CompTIA Tech Careers Academy. As everyone in the IT industry knows, Nancy and her team have done amazing things for the tech community, specifically around research and education, as well as certifications. Here's what she had to say.
The pandemic really put a spotlight on how woefully inequipped we were to manage cybersecurity in a remote world. MSPs did a terrific job of shoring up their customers and getting people up to speed with cybersecurity, but we have a long way to go.
Nancy, thank you for joining me today, especially one day before. I know you're going to take a little bit of time off. So again, appreciate you spending some time with us here.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you bet. You bet. So I am interested, and I know our listeners are going to be really interested in learning not only about your perspective and thoughts about, what we've gone through in 2020, what MSPs are going to be dealing with going into 2021, but also, CompTIA's perspective, on 2021. But before we get into all that, I'd love to ask you a couple other questions to get us kicked off. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So here's a big one. Admittedly, this is a big question based on the size and scope of the organization of CompTIA as a whole. But if you could just give us, really 100,000-foot view of CompTIA and the programs and resources that your organization provides to the IT community.
Okay, wonderful. So CompTIA is a global technology trade association. We are a self-funded not-for-profit, which makes us very unique as an association. We are funded by the sale of our technical certifications and training. So there's one side of the house, if you will, that's heavily committed to the tech workforce and validating skills and producing tests to validate those skills and the training to pass those tests. So we certify even throughout the pandemic. We're very fortunate that we pivoted to online testing and we certify about 300,000 a year. We actually have 3 of the top 5 selling certifications in the world: A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, and then we're joined by Microsoft and Cisco. So we have a very significant technical certification business, and all of the revenues from that, after we cover overhead and we invest in new certifications and testing tools, is put back into the industry. And as a trade association, our mission is pretty straightforward and simple: to drive the global technology industry forward. So we are advocates for the tech industry and the tech workforce. And on the membership side, and that is what I head up, we have many programs that help individuals grow careers in tech and businesses grow their businesses in tech. So we provide a tremendous amount of resources, industry insight in the form of research, networking with your peers in the form of communities and events and education and content and everything to equip people with the knowledge and the understanding and the direction they need to be successful in the industry.
It's I appreciate you giving us that overview. I have had the pleasure of serving on the MSP EC, and it had opened my eyes to a great degree. And I'm a vendor, right? So wasn't as embedded from the MSP side inside of CompTIA, but the amount of decisions and just the evaluations that we're making on the market and collaborating with some of the other communities. And there's so much excellent structure in how to find out what's relevant from the MSP's perspective, what you guys are seeing from a big high-end research and trends. It's been really cool. And anyone that's on this podcast that has not really started to submerge themselves inside of the community, I think you need to continue to dig into what CompTIA offers, because it's been a lot of fun to go through my own journey from a vendor and a council person.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, we hope that it's informative and it's fun. And you raised a really good point. We are member led and run. We are member owned and led and run as an association. So there is a lot of governance and a lot of structure, and we leverage people in the industry to
Yes.
lead the conversation, lead the communities, tell us what they need out there, what kind of resources, what kind of insight. And we have 8 member communities and 6 advisory councils now, and each of them are tasked with identifying initiatives that they will lead as a community and CompTIA will support as far as research or marketing or creative or content. So we work really hard. We have a lot of fun, and there's a lot of incremental value in the peer-to-peer exchanges and the camaraderie there. But the folks inside the EC, and thank you for serving on an EC, that's a big commitment and responsibility. But that inner circle that's driving the initiatives and working on the initiatives, by the end of any given year, we have 20 or more significant projects that our communities and council have worked on that have added a lot of value, you know?
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, the security community came up with a software tool, the Security Wizard, that would allow an MSP or an SSP to go into their client and do a risk assessment on a template, vendor neutral, and help them with that process of identifying risk, and then they could recommend solutions to their client. And that was an initiative that came from actually the security community and the MSP community worked together on it.
Yeah.
And that has global reach now. I was in Australia and an MSP came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I love that Security Wizard tool. And, you know, I'm a big Microsoft partner." And they actually commented on how it was driving him to be one of their best partners because of that tool. So yeah, you know, pretty neat things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. And thank you for all you guys do for the community and fostering that type of collaboration to get that type of results. So I'm going to shift gears on you just ever so slightly. How did you yourself get involved in the technology industry?
Wow. So I've been in the tech industry for 35 years, the majority of my professional career. I have to tell you honestly, Ryan, I fell into it like a lot of people. I had moved from the city to Long Island, and I was looking for a job. And there was a friend that worked at C&P Media, which is where I wound up working.
Sure.
And they were looking for somebody part-time to copyright articles. C&P produced they published a host of publications in the tech space, including Information Week, Network Computing, Computer Reseller News, et cetera. So I took that part-time job as a little bit of a stopgap, but I had an affinity for tech. I was fortunate enough to have gone to the University of Delaware in the 80s, and they were so proud of the fact that they were one of the few universities that had introduced a computer lab in the early 80s, and all of their business students were required to take a computer science course every semester.
Interesting.
So forced fun, and I was doing COBOL and Fortran programming and all of that, and I understood from that experience that was kind of a little bit forced on me. I wasn't so excited to be taking computer science as a business or a marketing major, but I understood that connection between technology and business. And I think, you know, when I graduated college, I understood this is a big, significant industry, you know, where there's lots of opportunity. So when I started at C&P and I thought it would be part-time, there was a posting for a full-time position in sales and marketing. So perfect for me and my degree and my experience. And it was selling media. Started out selling the databases of the newspapers and magazines, and then actually selling the ad pages. And I built a really nice career there over 25 years. And my last 10 years or so, I was running their exchange events business, which was really about communities and about fostering relationship between vendors and partners. And it was a wonderful experience. About a year before I left, Todd Thibodeau joined CompTIA as the new CEO and president. And in most industries, the largest trade association and media company will work together. So one of the first things that Todd did was come out to Boston and meet the executive team. And he shared his vision for CompTIA. And that meeting for me was transformative. I don't want to be too dramatic about it, but I started thinking, I want to work for that company. At this point in my career, I want to give back. I think a lot of people and even members that work with CompTIA appreciate the great careers that they've built, and they want to give back and help other people in the industry. So it took about a year, where the timing was right, and I joined CompTIA, and I've been there about 10 years now. And I do have an opportunity, and I have a new role at CompTIA now to help students and to help young folk see the opportunity with a career in tech, and to motivate them and inspire them and help onboard them into our wonderful industry. That's incredibly rewarding to me too, just helping people grow their careers.
That's perfect that you mentioned that, because I had a note here to ask you. I had noticed another title on your profile, CEO of the CompTIA Tech Careers Academy. And so that's how is that transition? How's that new transition been?
I'm just right in the middle of it. That was just announced in the past couple of weeks. I will still head up the membership organization. But for about 2 years, CompTIA has been working on launching this online technical vocational academy. It is an educational institution that will be online. The history of it is CompTIA has a foundation, Creating IT Futures Foundation. And for many years, they ran a program, and they still do, called IT Ready Apprentice. And that is working with several cities and states where we're licensed to bring in programs to train the at-risk and the underserved. So folks that, have been on the unemployment line for 2 years and have been displaced, from their jobs or careers, or returning troops, or folks coming out of incarceration, or women re-entering the workforce, and folks that kind of need a leg up. These have been city and state funded technical training programs, 10-week programs, where we're taking people that don't know a lick of technology, maybe off an unemployment line, and in 10 weeks giving them the intensive training to pass an A+ exam and get hired, as a help desk technician or something on that level. That program's been tremendously successful, and we've graduated thousands of students. And from that came the idea of having an alternative to the traditional higher education, and offering an intensive online program that will prepare an individual for a career in tech that'll be role-based. So most of the programs are 10 months in length. The pricing of it is from $8,000 to $12,000. We're working on our accreditation, so it will be available to every student so that they can use 529 plans or Pell Grants or student loans and all that. So we're waiting on the accreditation. But we will offer, courseware. If you want to be a cybersecurity analyst, you will go through this intensive program. It will be task-based, so there'll be virtual and kind of hands-on learning, even though it's going to be online.
That's
and you
awesome.
Security Plus, your Cybersecurity Analyst Plus, and your Pen Test Plus certifications in that year program. And we are working on job placement. And there'll be a connection with our membership and all the vendors and MSPs that we work with that will vet out your talent for you. And we will train them, and we will place them with you. So it'll be a great benefit to members as well. So my existing title is EVP of Membership and Industry Relations. It's a natural extension now for me to be heading up this academy and being the face and the voice out in the industry that is evangelizing this alternative higher education that will fast track an individual into a career. And it's really interesting. We're about a year away from accreditation. It is quite a process.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine
But
it
we
is.
have been getting the state licenses. So we've got 40 out of the 50 state licenses. Until we're accredited, we are permitted to run these programs by state. And as soon as the pandemic hit, there was lots of money at the state and city level that they were putting into educating and retraining and getting displaced workers off of unemployment. So we have been doing a bunch of custom training solutions with cities and states, training folk, and it's allowed us to kick the tires a little bit. It's not the same as the academy where it's a 10-month program, but some of them are 3 months program, you know, where we're giving them the training and then working with the city or state, helping to place them and get them off of unemployment. So it's pretty neat. And we're hoping that when we get the accreditation around the summer or fall of next year, we'll be ready to open our doors online, and we're hoping to onboard at least 2,500 students. And I tell you, as the mother of a 23-year-old, and the standard education system didn't quite work for him.
Right.
And if he had an option in any industry to get total immersion and intensive training for a year at a reasonable cost with career placement, he would have jumped at it. And we don't have too many opportunities like that. We are saying, loud and proud, there is no entry-level position in tech that you need a 4-year degree for. And many of the larger vendors are dropping the college degree requirement, including Apple and IBM. And, there's a paradigm shift happening here.
Agreed.
And then with the pandemic, we've tested and proven distance learning and remote online learning. I think there used to be a little bit of a stigma if you were going to an online university, and now Harvard and Princeton are online, right? And it's been the great equalizer. And, you definitely need college for certain professions and careers, but not all. And you don't necessarily, it's like one size fits all. So you could be paying $150,000 for a 4-year school for a general business administration marketing or pre-med or pre-law. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So we're challenging that. We're offering something affordable, efficient, and we're actually hoping this is just the start of a trend where if you want to be a journalist, you can go to a 1-year total immersion intensive program online and learn everything you need to know to be a journalist and get fast-tracked into a career, right? So really excited to be a little bit of a disruptor. We're also going to be teaching a lot of the soft skills and the employability skills that you need to be in tech, which sometimes, a tech professional is missing. So obviously you can tell I'm super excited.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, there's such a disservice that can happen with a certain percentage of young people where a 4-year degree just isn't the right fit, right? And you're right, there's just that umbrella, and to come in and give a viable option, accreditation. And you hit the nail on the head with a point that you said that I think is super important in the immersion philosophy, are the soft skills combined with the intense technical training. Because if I was to look back, I went to school for architecture. That's obviously not what I'm doing, right? And here we are. And I always say the thing that college did for me was it forced me, again, to one of your earlier points, was get comfortable with being in front of people. I had to present a lot in the architecture program. So those type of soft skills, I was like, hey, I got comfortable being in front of people. There was my value, but I love the thought of the immersion. And it just sounds like such an incredible, number one, recipe for success for young people, but two, the skills gap that continues to widen. And so you guys are attacking that directly and being proactive versus sitting back. I love that thought.
That's a really, really good point. And that's where it's coming from. We have nearly 1 million open tech positions, right? And and that gap is widening and widening. And we don't have a lot of diversity in our industry.
Correct.
A lot of minorities, women or African American or Hispanic, they don't identify with tech because they don't see a lot of people that look like them in the industry, so we really need to do a better job of reaching out to them and being role models and being influencers and giving them all they help. Anybody can do tech. Anybody
Right.
can learn tech. It's a learnable skill. You need to have a little bit of an interest or a passion or an affinity for it.
For
But
sure.
oh my gosh, there are so many kids that are sitting gaming that, have like such a runway into tech, but they don't know people in tech, or the school is frowning upon that. Like the experience that my son had by the time he was in 11th grade, I had the school calling me like, Mrs. Hammervik, Christian hasn't signed up for all his college prep work or his SATs. And, for him, he always challenged the system. Like, what if I don't want to go to college?
Right.
But it wasn't really an option, or what if I don't want to go now, and I'm really excited about being able to offer an alternative. The world is changing. All of our industries, including education, have to be flexible and change with it. And also, it's not just for students, it's also for displaced adults or people that find, I'm not loving this job, whatever it might be, or they lose their job. And we want to grab them and retrain them and get them back, or get them into, tech jobs, within a year. So hopefully we're also helping to close that skills gap and what we call the confidence gap too.
Well, and just from a dollar for dollar return on investment for the student coming in,
Right.
it's hard. It's very hard to compare. I mean, you guys are,
Right.
It's such an attractive option. Thank you for really digging in there. I think that's just really valuable for people to understand. And how can MSPs, IT service providers keep their ear to the rail on the progression and rollout of that program?
Oh yeah, great. So
be involved in the CompTIA communities,
yes,
right?
absolutely. So there's two ways you can engage with CompTIA. You can be a member, a premier member, and the membership dues are really nominal. As I mentioned before, we're really funded by the sale of our technical certifications. So we're not selling sponsorships and we don't have high dues rates. It's $350 for an MSP company. But 8 years ago or so, we also opened the doors to CompTIA membership, if you will, and offered a free or complimentary membership on a digital basis. So we produce so much content and so much research, and to only be sharing that with our paying members was just doing a great disservice to the industry. If we're not reliant on membership dues, and we're this global trade association that's supposed to be moving the industry forward, our resources should be available to as many people as possible. So about 8 years ago, we opened up virtual doors. We put everything in front of the firewall, and you can subscribe at no cost and be a CompTIA registered user. We have more than 250,000 registered users. So
That's
if you
awesome.
make that connection, just go to CompTIA.org, and where you see join, you can join as a member, and there's additional benefits for being a member, but you can join as a registered user, and you'll be connected to CompTIA, and you'll hear all about the developments that we have. We also are all over social media, so you can find us on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. We just launched, I'm very excited about this, we're getting very cool. We launched a YouTube channel called CompTIA World. And we're on our 3rd series that have 5 episodes each. So we have one for MSPs on business transformation. We have one with MJ Shore, shoring up security. And that talks a lot about our ISAO and threats and response. And we have a new one coming up with Bob Stegner on lessons of an SMB. Universal truths, kind of talking about dynamics in the channel. If you know Bob Stegner, who is at Ingram and Synex now, been in the industry for many years, he's a veteran. he's sharing his perspective on the industry from 20, 25 years ago to now, and what some of the universal truths are. So yeah, so you can find us anywhere, and believe me, once you connect with us, we'll make sure to stay in touch with you.
No, you guys are great communicators. So thank you for all the info. I'm jotting down notes here.
Yeah,
I'm the worst talker and note taker. Make sure we're following up
I
appropriately
know,
after
that's
here.
hard to do. I know.
Watch me chew gum and walk.
I know. And chew ice. I know.
Hey everybody, Ryan here for a quick break from our show. We want to thank Nancy from CompTIA for joining us on today's episode. You can find out more about the association at CompTIA.org. Now, this wouldn't be an ad break without running some ads, so I'd like to talk to you about our product, ConnectBooster. ConnectBooster is the premier accounts receivable management and payment automation tool for the channel. When our partners invoice and bill their clients, ConnectBooster automates the payment, automates the accounting, and gives 24/7, 365 visibility into end clients so they can see current invoices, past invoices, auto pay settings, securely stored checking, credit card data, and so much more. We all know it's hard enough to get in the door of a prospect. It's hard enough to close the deal. It shouldn't be hard to accept their money when the sale is made. If your business isn't one of the thousands that is getting paid faster with ConnectBooster, reach out to us at ConnectBooster.com to learn more how you can automate your cash flow. Before we get back to the show, we want to let you know all the ways you can find us online. Visit our website, ConnectBooster.com/podcast to listen to new episodes before they air on the podcast network. If you'd rather wait, our episodes are available on iTunes, Spotify, Google, and really anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So search ConnectBooster on your favorite platform and subscribe to get notified when there's a new episode. If you have suggestions for future episodes or want to be a guest on the podcast, please email us at podcast@connectbooster.com or send us a message on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll point you in the right direction. Lastly, if you like the show, leave us a review on iTunes and tell us why you like it. Thanks for listening to the Confessions of an IT Business Owner. We'll get back to the podcast and talk to you soon. You'd hit on CompTIA research, in the last answer, and I know as a resource for MSPs, vendors, industry experts, a lot of entities rely upon your reporting and trend reports and predictions. I think a lot of us are ready to put 2020 behind us to rest. The CompTIA 2021 IT Outlook report. I'm guessing it's going to be very welcome from the community and getting insight from all of the time, effort, and money that you guys pour in to research. What are some of the changes that you guys see and envision for 2021 and beyond?
So the IT industry outlook is out now, and it is in front of the firewall, and it is one of the most anticipated pieces of research that we do. We holistically look at the health of the industry, the workforce, and then the businesses that support it. So we also partner with IDC on some of the global numbers and trending. And while the tech industry, especially the big tier 1 and tier 2 vendors, were not immune from an impact of the pandemic, we fared pretty well as an industry. And we were slightly behind forecasted growth for the year, which is understandable in a pandemic, but we're looking at beating $4 trillion as an industry in 2021. So looking for growth. I would say what the IT outlook is showing this year is that the pandemic was a great accelerator. So there were many things that needed to happen in our industry, but we were so busy and we were moving so fast and everything was kind of good enough and we just kept, moving forward. The pandemic really put a spotlight on how woefully inequipped we were to manage cybersecurity in a remote world.
Right.
Once everybody, like when the workforce went remote and all like that. So MSPs did a terrific job of shoring up their customers and getting people up to speed with cybersecurity, but we have a long way to go. And unfortunately, the threats increased throughout the pandemic. The bad actors, find this to be like just the perfect environment. New legislation is starting to come out that's going to hold MSPs responsible for cybersecurity.
Right.
So the IT industry outlook is showing absolutely like an increase focused on cybersecurity, and MSPs will be growing their businesses and that share of business on cybersecurity. The other thing is on emerging technologies. So probably 3 or 4 years ago, we consciously started pivoting, maybe not pivoting, I would say expanding from the traditional MSP that was still selling product, some services, being very responsive, maybe managing infrastructure. We were sharing about the need to be selling solutions for MSPs to be that trusted advisor that a customer comes to solve a business problem. And even more importantly, to proactively work with your customer and suggest solutions that they don't even know they need, right? That will help them be more efficient, more effective, more competitive. But those emerging technologies like AI with cybersecurity, or using AI to automate tasks or to manage repetitive tasks, or using drones, or getting a little bit more sophisticated with IoT and data.
Right.
MSPs weren't moving that fast there. And that's because the phone was still ringing. They were, making their numbers. They were very busy, and it's kind of like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, and nobody's asking for it. But what the IT industry outlook is showing is that there's going to be a purposeful and significant increase on adopting these emerging technologies and making us all a little bit more efficient and effective. Also, this wasn't really in the outlook, but technology started getting a bad rap. The more advanced we were getting and the more emerging tech that came out, the more people were fearing privacy issues, right? And control issues and loss of jobs. And people started looking at tech as like the big bad wolf. Technology, I feel, saved the day for business with the pandemic. It was definitely technology's time to shine. And I think folks now see how technology can be used for good if it's done in a responsible and a controlled way, and how it kept the lights on and how it kept businesses running. And now the customer is going to want more of that. They're going to want, to realize more of that savings. They want to stay more competitive. So the IT industry outlook is actually showing a faster adoption of the emerging technologies than we were forecasting last year.
Sure.
And then just overall, it's going to be a strong, healthy year, and especially for MSPs. A lot of MSPs are going to be adding new services to their line card, working on selling the solutions. I think more than half, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but more than half said that next year, the makeup of their business will change and they will be selling new solutions.
It's really interesting.
An interesting dynamic that's coming out of it, Ryan, is that we've been talking for a long time about vertical market VARs. When I was CRN and VAR business back in the day, we were preaching vertical market VARs, but you didn't see that really take hold so much because a lot of the solutions that the integrators, the MSPs were selling were universal across a lot of industries. Definitely some specialize in some vertical markets. But again, I say the pandemic is the great accelerator because using emerging technologies now, an MSP can get very deep into a specific vertical market. So they might be in agriculture or construction or hospitality, and leveraging emerging tech now, they can bring AI into that vertical market. They can bring IoT. They can bring XR, virtual reality, augmented reality, all with the application for that market. So we are seeing this trend that some MSPs and solution providers are going to start focusing and like going deep on not just providing product and infrastructure, remote management and all that to their clients, but being this proactive business partner that's building really good business solutions. So I'm super excited to see that coming to be. So I had mentioned a couple years ago, we expanded our membership beyond the traditional MSP to bring in more of these emerging technology vendors, more of these emerging technology distributors and integrators. And it's created a nice ecosystem in CompTIA. MSPs are either evolving and starting to sell new solutions themselves, or they're partnering with the MTech folk. And the MTech folk need the infrastructure and vice versa. So there's a lot of opportunity. And the outlook is showing that it will be a strong year for the industry and MSPs.
Well, Nancy, just before closing here, I really want to thank you for the insights from you personally and learning a little bit more about yourself, industry insights from CompTIA's perspective, some of the cool things that you guys are doing to shake up the industry, shake up education, fill the talent and skills gap that exists, and making your mark there. That's very cool. And to end, I have one final question for you, and this really hit me, and I'm very interested in your answer based on you had mentioned you enjoy growing people, and mentoring individuals and pushing them. So in the successful career that you've had, and all of the people that you've interfaced with, and the success that you've had, what advice would you have for someone that's maybe changing careers, coming into the tech industry, or someone new that maybe doesn't feel like they fit the norm and is interested in the tech industry? What advice do you have for them and their personal pivot?
Yeah. So, everybody needs a mentor, but even more important than that is you need a sponsor. You need somebody who's interested in your growth. So I know it's really hard when you're new and you feel like you don't fit yet, or you don't have those connections, but whether it's online or whether it's with a live community right now, so much is online, just put yourself out there and start making connections and building relationships, and find somebody that you trust that is interested. And you know what? May not even be in the industry. It might be a family member that just encourages you, right?
Sure.
But like somebody that you can share your experiences with, get feedback on, somebody that is going to congratulate you when you do well and be happy for you, or challenge you when you're getting down on yourself or you're giving up. But if there's one thing this pandemic has taught us, and has taught me about this industry, is that we're all in this together. Nobody can like go it alone. So, sometimes people want to be very strong and self-reliant and resourceful. It takes a stronger person to get out of their comfort zone and make connections and make relationships, right? So it is all about the people. Like, we're tech, and people are worried that tech is going to replace people, but tech is never going to be your coach, and tech is never going to be your motivator, and never going to be your inspirer, right? So it's still very much the people business, but just try to avail yourself of as many resources as you can. And if you're new in tech, I would say one of the most important things that you can do is subscribe to CompTIA. And this is not promotional at all. This is like genuine, because I really believe in the community that will support you.
For sure.
Join a community, right? So we have a community for MSPs and security, and we have a community advancing tech talent and diversity. So for somebody that really feels I don't fit, and I don't see people that look like me, and I'm a woman in tech, or I'm an African American or tech or something, join that community. you will get more support and more encouragement. And, we're trying to work also with the employers that we're building good cultures that, embrace people. And, one of the other things that we grappled with this year was all the social injustice, and there was increased interest in diversity and inclusion programs. Well, I'm really proud of the fact that CompTIA has had a community for that for over 7 years.
Yeah.
And people started coming to us. Like an SMB never really thought about having a DEI strategy or program in their business, but now they're asking. And, big companies may have the wherewithal to build those programs and smaller companies don't. But we all just now have to be acutely aware of treating each other fairly and kindly and being supportive. And so, yeah, I would say the most important thing you could do is join a community and find a sponsor. Yep.
That's awesome. That's great insight and great advice. Thank you very much. Well, Nancy, that's a wrap. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us.
It's great to spend time with you. I really appreciate it.
You as well. Enjoy time with your son and your mother.
I will. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.